Hey, it's Bernadette. All right, so we're going to talk. And this came about because of a conversation I just had a little while ago and with my cousin who's going through some stuff. And I'm her mentor, coach-ish person. Um, and it goes right along with what we're doing in Charm Life tonight, because we are talking about the events and the stories and the circumstances that have shaped our lives. But I want to share with you guys, because what you see now, like so many of you, what I teach you and what I teach, and you're learning and you're growing. Hi, Melanie. And what you see now is the product of going through a whole lot of crap. Like I've been through a lot. Hi, Valkyrie. So, and sometimes because I'm so far removed from all of these major things, and although I guess, yeah, I still continue to go through things, but nothing like I used to go through, and not the major stuff that I went through in my younger years. It's tough sometimes, right? For me to remember. But a question came up from my cousin about, well, how did you do it? How did you go through it? Like when I made my move and I took a leap of faith. So let me just briefly share with you guys, like I moved, well, I don't know if you guys know this, but back in 2000, I moved from San Diego to Colorado, and it was all orchestrated by Spirit. And while I was given a 5-year warning that I would be moving, I didn't really take that seriously. First of all, because I wasn't really living my life, following Spirit's advice. Hi, Lisa. And I was training horses at the time. I fulfilled my dream to have my own hunter jumper training and boarding facility, and things were going really well. And I woke up one morning and everything fell apart at the barn with the relationship that I had, right? My ex fell off the wagon and cleared out our bank account, like 30 grand, a lot of money, and left me in dire straits. Like everything was fine the day before, and then suddenly, poof, it's all gone. And put me in a bind. And I had all of my cash tied up in that business. I had $25,000 tied up in that business. It was everything I had, and it was all brand new. And when I woke up that morning, Spirit said, "Are you ready to go?" And I was like, "Oh, where are we going?" They're like, "You're moving to Colorado." And I'm like, "Oh, no. Like, no, I don't want to." So I had to make that move sight unseen. I made that move without knowing what I was going to do for work. I knew nobody in the state of Colorado, never been really there. So I took off to Sedona, blah, 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 right? That's how the story goes. Someday I'll fill you guys in on the whole story. But during that time, because when we go through major life changes, and a lot of you are going through some big shifts and big transitions and big challenges, during that time, it was super scary and really stressful. I'm a single mom. I had me and my daughter, my dog. I had to clear the farm, all of my equipment. Sunday, I don't do messages like that here on live streams, so you're never going to get something like that from me. If you want to book a session with me, you're welcome to. But yeah, I don't do that here on live stream. Anyways, sold off 6 of 8 horses, sold all of my equipment at a cut rate, like it was all brand spanking new, and I had to just get it sold so I could pay the bills off at the farm and break my lease and pay that off, and clear up the mess that my then fiance created for us, and pack everything up and leave. And my cousin was asking me, like, how'd you do it? How'd you handle that? And honestly, you guys, I did it one breath at a time. Back then we didn't have cell phones. Well, I guess we did, but they weren't like they are now. They weren't smartphones. I had one of those sand timers, and I always used that sand timer when I used it for Brindy a lot when she was in timeout. But I used that sand timer to take breaths, because there were times during that period of time and those stresses and all this stuff is happening all at one time. I've got to sell the farm now. My business is changing. I don't know what I'm going to do for work. My money is gone and I have to leave the state and go to another state. And this voice in my head is telling me to do it. And everyone thinks I've lost my mind and I'm crazy. On top of that, I've got a kid. And I'm taking her with me without any idea of where we're going to end up and what we're going to do. And I just lost my relationship, right? Like everything happened in a 24-hour time period. My life flatlined and everything had to change. And there was no choice but to just deal with it. So how did I use the egg timer or the sand timer? The moments I couldn't breathe, I literally, because this was such a huge leap of faith, that I was following this message from spirit in my head that said, you're moving to Colorado, you're just going to have faith that it's all going to work out, without a clue of where I was going, what I was doing, and how this was going to end up. And now I'm broke. Flat broke. Like when I arrived in Colorado, I don't even think I had but $400 left after I paid for the moving truck, my apartment or my house that I rented, and got us there. $400, no job, middle of the country, no idea. And when you go through stuff like that, that is so trying and so challenging, and you're terrified and confused, and you feel like your whole life just fell apart. Sometimes all you can do as you're pushing through it, and I did force my way through it, pushed my way through it, one step at a time. I kept telling myself, just put one foot in front of the other. That became my theme song. Just put one foot in front of the other. I don't know if you guys remember that song. It was from some Christmas special. I'd sing that in my head over and over again. And then when I couldn't breathe, when I was holding my breath and my anxiety attacks were happening because so much was going on and I had no idea how it was going to all turn out, I would look at that egg timer and I'd flip the sand around. And for that time period, I would take deep breaths and just breathe until all the sand dropped to the bottom. And I wouldn't think about anything, but I'd watch that timer and focus on my breath. And I don't know what to tell you guys when you're going through these major life changes like divorce or moving, changing businesses, changing jobs, whatever losses you're dealing with, or death. I don't know what to tell you other than sometimes you literally have to take it 1 second at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time. You can't go and look at, okay, what am I going to do in 2 days? And what happens when I show up? And oh my God, what am I going to do for work? When you're living by faith, and this was one of my biggest lessons in have faith, you don't get to see the whole picture. You get to get little bits and pieces of information, sure. And while I should, if my ego hadn't kicked in so hardcore, and if it wasn't so out of the norm of what everyone else would be doing, I mean, how many people pack up, root up their whole entire lives based on a voice that they woke up to in the morning, right? With a kid who was like, how old was she? Like, I want to say she was 7 or 8 years old, something like that. She wasn't very old. And we had just come through this very stressful period of time as it was. Things were just settling in. I liked my life. I loved where I lived. I was doing what I wanted. And then the rug was pulled out from underneath me and the universe said, you got to leave. It's time to go. And it took my fiance emptying our bank accounts and disappearing on a binge for me to heed that voice, because he put me in a serious corner financially. And while I was scared, like what's going to happen to my credit ran through my head. How am I going to find a place that I can afford? I'm moving somewhere I don't know anyone. I don't know the economy. You know, I haven't worked for anyone in several years. I don't want to work for anybody. There aren't a lot of training facilities like what I do, hunter jumpers, because there's no shows there. Where California, you know, you're right on the West Coast show circuit, plenty of hunter jumper horses to deal with. So now I'm changing careers into what I don't know. And I was grieving the loss of my relationship all at the same time. And I felt like I was losing my mind, but I had no choice but to go one step at a time. And there were days I thought I was going to crack. So this is what I told her, and I'll share with you guys. There came a point in time where I had a conversation with Spirit. And I just said, everything's been stripped away from me. Everything, you've made it so that like everything is pulled away. I don't know what I've done. And they kept telling me, we're not doing this to you. We're doing this for you. I'm like, not as far as I can see. Like, as far as I can see, this is BS. Like, I haven't done anything to deserve this. How many of you guys have gone through stuff and you have that conversation with God? You're like, excuse me. Like, did something go wrong on the karma wagon? Like, somebody took the wrong stop and ended up in my life instead of, Tommy's down the street? Like, what the hell? Because that's the conversation I had. When I reached a point of exhaustion that there was nowhere else to turn, then this is what I said to Spirit. And no one knew this. Like, I wouldn't say this to anybody. I just had to put on a brave front that it was all going to be okay. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's going to work out. But inside, in the conversation that I had with Spirit about this was, fine, you just took everything from me, but my daughter, my dog, and a couple of my horses. You want me to go? I will go. And yeah, maybe I'm crazy, but here's the deal. If this doesn't work out, and I'm trusting you, if this doesn't work out, and I already gotten the confirmation, asked for a house that was 2-bedroom, 2-bath on a couple acres, I could have the horses in the backyard for under $500 a month, thinking they couldn't pull that off. And they did at $450. So when we were in the moving truck and the whole drive, towing my car from California to Colorado, this is what I said. You guys have put me in this position. I have no idea what's going to happen in my life. I don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know what's going to be around the next turn. I don't know how alone I'm going to be because you just pulled away all my friends. I have no family anywhere close to here. So here's my backup plan. This shit doesn't work and I'm going to kill myself. Like, I got nothing to lose. Aside from my kid, like, seriously, if it comes down to me not being able to feed my kid, and I put trust in you and that this is the voice of God, if this doesn't work out and you let me down, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to keep rebuilding. I'm not going to keep going through this stuff, because by then, Brindy had already been molested. I got through all of that. I'd already been through abuse and divorce and loss of finance. I already been through so freaking much. Aside from my childhood, like, I survived so much. So I'm like, you're doing this to me. So if I'm listening to bad voices, then ending my life is probably a good thing. My daughter doesn't need it. And if I'm crazy, again, probably a good thing that I'm no longer here. But I'm putting my faith in you, and I'm just going to do this. And I'm terrified. And I was honest with Spirit too. I'm terrified, and I'm angry, and I was. And I'm resistant, and I was. But fine, that's my backup plan. And so I went. And sometimes I had to just take a time out and put that little sand timer, flip it over, and watch each sand piece drop bit by bit. And I kept telling myself, if you can get to where the sand is in the bottom, you're going to be okay. Just breathe long enough to get there. Because when you're going through stressful situations too, you stop, you hold your breath. You literally physically hold your breath. You take shallow breaths. You don't relax. Your muscles tense up and everything just becomes locked. So even on the drive there, I honestly was holding my breath. It's not pretty, you guys. What you see now, like, you see my strength and you see my faith. It took building this faith. It took going through things like that to build my faith. The outcome is this, if you've never heard the ending of this story. That property that I leased, that for $450 a month, I ended up, because when I got there, I didn't know what I was going to do for work. And then they told me to start giving readings, psychic readings. That's how I ended up in this business 19 years ago. And serving others, just do what we tell you. It's going to be fine. Because there were no jobs there. The jobs there paid $10 an hour. I hadn't made $10 an hour since I was a teenager. Like, I didn't even know you could live on $10 an hour, but that's what they were paying for marketing jobs. I didn't want to go back into corporate. I didn't want to go back into marketing, but I did want to be of service. And I had said a prayer many months before, my life is yours. All of my dreams have come true. You've taught me how to manifest. I'm in service to you. Lo and behold, that uprooted my whole life. But I don't want you guys to think that this spiritual walk, this life that we live, these lessons, these changes, everything we go through here, it isn't without some sacrifice. It's not pretty. Like I wasn't in a dark night of the soul necessarily. I was just in an up leveling. Truly, I literally was going to the next level in my spiritual development and spiritual evolution. I didn't know that then. And there weren't things like this, live streams. There weren't people like me that you could reach out to readily and easily. That's when it began, though, is in the year 2000 is when people like me started coming online and doing readings over the phone and being available, right, for reputable companies. But it was ugly. And I did have that backup plan. I did. And I needed some sort of a backup plan at that point. I needed to know, like, if this all goes south, like, what am I going to do? And literally it came down to, you have nothing to lose. Like at this point, everything's been removed from you. All of your safety nets are gone. So take a leap of faith and trust and watch what happens, is what they kept telling me. And I kept telling them, I'm doing it. I'm not liking this. This is terrifying. This is really, on the outside, looks stupid, looks completely stupid, that I'm going from an area where I have support, I have friends, I have connections, to somewhere I've never been, and I have no idea what I'm walking into. Like, I look like a fool right now, and I'm listening to a voice in my head. So, cool. Let's go there. Let's see where this takes us, because at this point, I'm tired of succeeding and then failing, because that's what that felt like to me. I felt like I was failing, and Spirit kept telling me, you're not failing, you're going to the next level. But it felt like, and it looked like, devastation and failure. Have you guys gone through periods like that where you, in your mind, you're thinking, this is it. This is just bullshit. It's all falling apart. My whole life is over. I was really dramatic back then too. And it did feel like that to me. And my family kept telling me that I was crazy, that we'd already been through too much. We were giving up our stability. And I'm like, I'm not giving up my stability. My stability was just ripped out from underneath me, thanks to someone who decided to go binge, disappear, and blow all the money in our bank account. Like, that's what happened. So yeah, maybe I'm crazy, but at this point, I got nothing to lose but follow the voice. And the end result, I bought that property. Within 6 months, I bought that property from the owner, and was making payments on it. And by the next, I guess it was a year and a half later, I owned that property, turned around and built a 3,248 square foot home that I lived on and lived at. Owned it for 18 years, lived there for 17. So that's how that story ended. And I've been doing this business ever since. It started by waking up from a dream and a voice that said, it's time to go. Are you ready? We're calling you into service. Your 5 years is up. Today that expired. And I was like, wait, what? No. So I want you guys to understand, you can get to where I am, where you have that unshakable peace. It took processes, it took study, and it took faith and the action of following the voice of Spirit, even in the face of it looking insane and feeling terrifying and feeling like, everything's ending. I truly felt at that time like, that's it, my life's over. I'm moving to the mountains. That to me was death. I was born in California. Seattle was bad enough, but Colorado, like snow, I had never been in snow aside from the light snow they have in California, not Colorado snow, which is freaking snow. So to me, you're taking me from the water, the beach, everything I loved, and you're sticking me in the middle of, and I lived in the middle of nowhere. Anyone that was ever at my house over there will tell you it was truly in the middle of nowhere. And it felt like a punishment. So if you're going through things right now, or maybe you do go through things, I hope this conversation sits in the back of your head. While there were moments where I felt like I couldn't take another step, it was too overwhelming. I had to pack up the house. I had to sell off all the equipment, had to tell all my boarders and my trainings clients that I had to go, and I had to go right now. Like literally got to go right now. There is no choice. The water's off at the farm. You guys got to get your horses out of here. I apologize. Take a bale of hay with you. Have a nice day. Like I was humiliated that all of this had gone wrong, on top of, having nowhere to turn, and then taking very little money with me, with a kid, a dog, and 2 horses, and going to some new life I had no idea about and I didn't want. But would I change it? No. Those were the most, I want to say, amazing, because so much changed in my life. Like my mediumship abilities kicked up and wide open. My psychic abilities took off like you would not believe. And I learned a lot and became the woman I am now. And, within, by 2002, I moved there in 2002, Bella was born. So it all happened like this, truly. By 2001, I owned the property and the house was built and finished. We moved into it in 2004. So everything just boom, 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 boom. And yeah, had my kid at home and raised Addie partially there and finished raising Brindy there. Like no one could have told me back then. Like if you had told me that was going to be my life, first, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said you were crazy. And second, I wouldn't have thought that I could get through it. And in that moment that all those things fell apart, I thought I couldn't get through it, to the point where my backup plan was fine. One more disappointment, I can't take anymore. Like my heart just continually breaks. Like, fine, I'll move. And if it doesn't work, I'm out. I'm just done. Like someone else can raise Brindy. She doesn't need a crazy mother. I'm done. And not only did it work, it was far better than I could have imagined. So I don't know what you guys are facing, whether it's health issues, because believe me, I went through the same stuff, the same thought process when I was battling leukemia and battling colon cancer, and doing it all naturally and not doing it the way the doctors wanted me to, and laying on the floor crying out to spirit. Like I've been there so many times in so many ways. And that's been my backup plan too. Like, fine, I'm out. Like, you're not going to help me through this, and all the while spirit kept telling me, you're going to make it through this. Just be strong. I know it hurts. Like they kept saying, we know you're in pain. We know you're scared. And then they would instruct me and give me tools and give me things to focus on, as far as putting my focus in a place where it was life affirming, right? And I wasn't saying things that were making my illness worse. Nothing any of you have gone through have I not probably at some level or another gone through. And I don't want any of you to ever feel like you're alone, first of all, and second of all, that you can't do it. Because of all the people that I know, especially back then, I would probably be the worst. Like, I bet you people were making bets that I was going to fail. I was making bets it was going to fail. Like, but it didn't matter what the world said. I went with what spirit said. So pray. Be honest with spirit. Like, they don't care. They laughed at me when I told them that, and they said, if that's the out you need, fine, but it's going to work. And I kept saying, but if it doesn't, I'm so obnoxious. But if it doesn't, I want to be very clear about this. I'm done. I'm out. I'm ending my life. No more discussion. See you on the other side. We can talk about it over coffee once I get there. Like, that's how firm I was. and they understand, spirit understands, God understands like how hard the human journey is, and that we have such a narrow vision. We can only see what's in front of us half the time. Contact with spirit is so much harder when you go through shit. But that's my experience. So nice to get answers if you need them. Contact with spirit is awfully hard when you're going through stuff. And I will tell you, in the times when I was going through other stuff that wasn't directed by spirit, this event was literally directed by spirit. They're the ones that woke me up. I had no idea the night before anything was going wrong. Everything was fine. Boyfriend was in bed. Woke up in the morning. He wasn't there. Thought he went to a meeting. And I woke up to, it's time to go. You're moving. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I got a business here. Within an hour, I found out when I went to balance a checkbook, called the bank for the balance. I found out very quickly life wasn't okay. And in fact, I probably was moving. It was a shocker, but I woke up to that, to spirit saying, time's up, 5 years, time to go. So, in that thing, they walked me through the whole thing, no matter how stubborn I was, no matter, and I mean, if you guys like Lillian, if you've read the book, the Charm Life book, I talk about my journey in Sedona, and some of the messages they gave me. And one of the stories is in there about, hiking Cathedral Rock, and the message about take the hard rocky path or take the path that's been cleared before you. And truly the path to Colorado was cleared before me, and everything fell into place. And that's how we know, right? Things fall into place when it's right. I'm not saying everything was perfect, because it wasn't, right? There were things that to me seemed ridiculous, but it still all fell into place. So I just want you guys to understand, like, it's not pretty when we go through stuff and we cry and we get angry and we get scared and we throw our hands in the air like little children and we kick and we scream and we say, I don't want this and I don't like this. And then it all turns out okay. Hi, Cheryl. But there have been other times when my energy dropped out. I went through my own stuff and I couldn't hear spirit, and I would cry and cry and cry. There were so many years there when I was going through the stuff with Brindy's recovery that I was angry with God, angry. How could you let this happen to her? What did I ever do? Why would you let a child be molested? Like, I was pissed. I was very angry. I didn't look to talk to spirit for a long time there. And when I did talk to spirit, it was me yelling and cussing and saying how unfair it was and how wrong it was and how dare you and blah, blah, blah. My life is ruined. And I didn't hear spirit. I can see now when I look back, and I journaled all through that process, all the places spirit actually was, but I couldn't recognize it because it was such a high vibration compared to where I was at the bottom of the barrel. Couldn't see it. Couldn't hear it. So when you lay there like I did at night and you're crying like, I need a hug, why can't you just materialize? Why can't you be there for me, spirit? Like, I need you. God, like, I just send an angel. And that used to be my thing. Just make one materialize. You've done it before. Why can't you make one show up in my room right now if you love me? And I did that too. If you loved me, you would bring me an angel, so I knew everything was going to be okay. And I know that I was surrounded by angels, but I couldn't see them and I couldn't sense them and I couldn't feel them because my energy was so very low and desperate. But I want you all to know they are there. You just can't sense them because you're in a very low vibrational place. You've got to raise your energy up. But it doesn't mean that they let go of you. They are there. You just have to have faith, and faith raises the vibration, and hope raises the vibration, right? Taking action when you don't want to, it raises the vibration one step at a time, one deep breath at a time. Express and vent your energies, but keep moving and take your leap of faith. Trust it. Truly, if you will trust in where you're being led and guided, you will never be let down. I don't care how many times I've been in rough situations, crazy situations. I have always been led out. I mean, the move here from Colorado to Washington on the pass with no chains when there was a chain restriction, but we didn't have any and we didn't know. That was a whole other deal. Driving through blizzards in Colorado, truly blizzards over a pass to get to the hospital where my boyfriend at the time was, because he had a lung transplant, and being stuck in a storm, the only car on the road, no visibility, can't stop because it's minus 12 degrees. And if you stop, you're screwed, wondering if you're going to run out of gas and am I going to be able to get through this? And I hope that like no plows come and hit me, but the plows weren't even running because there was no visibility. Somehow, miraculously being led out of those situations. And those were the times, knuckles on the steering wheel, praying, God, lead me through this. I know you're with me. And all I kept hearing is just go slow and steady. Go slow and steady. And I'm like, don't let a moose jump out. Don't let a deer or elk. Don't let me hit anybody. Angels surround my car. When you have that kind of faith, everything can work out for you. And it doesn't have to even be that dramatic. It can just be you going from one job to the next, from one place where you're living to the next, from one relationship ending to the next in your new life. Doesn't matter what you're going through at all. It doesn't. They're always there to help you. And it's okay if you need to have a back door, because they're not going to let you down. Like seriously. And I meant it when I said it. Like, this doesn't work out. I'm out and done. They didn't let me down. My life got so good, and it has been freaking one miracle after another. And yes, I've still had to go through some serious hard lessons, hard experiences, hard circumstances, but I've gotten through all of them. So I love teaching you guys. I love sharing this, the stuff that I learned from Spirit and the messages they want me to deliver. But sometimes, like today, I was reminded, some people, they need to hear like the dirty, raw truth of what it's like to go through that stuff. And it's not pretty. It's not. What you see now, what you guys feel now, it's unrecognizable from where I've been in the past. And when I've had moments of just sheer wanting to give up, like when I was sick, moments where I just was in my room and I'm like, I can't get up off the bathroom floor. Like, seriously, I'm just going to die here. Like, that's what's going to be on my epitaph. She died on the bathroom floor, alone, crying. But she had a journal next to her. Crazy shit. So, yeah. It makes us, in the end, there's no end. There is no end. But it helps us grow. Your back door was, I know a lot of people have that back door, and we're human, right? It does save you, right? I mean, sometimes when you get to the bottom of the bottom and that's your only, like, that's it. If that's what has to happen, fine, whatever. No skin off my back at this point. Like, I give up, can't do anymore. And then it turns out completely better than you could have imagined. I mean, at times you feel foolish for going there, but at the time, if that's what it takes to get through that shit, then get through it. Whatever it takes. Oh, you mean scared. Yeah. Scared the hell out of you. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm grateful for your life lessons. You've taught me so much. I've grown incredibly. I am blessed by that, Lisa, and by anyone else who hears the craziness that has been my life, which is also why I wrote a book, writing the book, one book that can't even touch the numerous stories. And yeah, there's a lot still in edits we're going to have to sort of extrapolate on, because first draft, we're still on the first draft. Writing a book is incredibly tough. But my point in sharing all of it is so that you guys understand I am human. Like, I wasn't born like super strong and so much faith and you have these psychic gifts. Aren't you blessed? These psychic gifts came with some heavy duty lessons so that I can handle them properly and be humble and have compassion. I'm not kind and compassionate because I didn't go through shit. I'm kind and compassionate because I had to go through a whole lot. a lot in one lifetime. And I'm only 52, but I have lived the life of 3 people in that 52 years. It has not been easy. And I don't want anyone to have this misunderstanding that walking the spiritual path or life in general is easy. Life is not. It's complicated. It's messy. Emotions are complicated. Our analytical minds get in the way of so much stuff. Our egos then come in and make it even more messy and more uncomfortable and ugly. It's what do you do with it? What do you do with it? Do you let it build you up, or do you let those things tear you down, make you angry, and make you turn into someone who's not compassionate and is mean? We all have a choice. I chose, I think, the right path because life has worked out and I'm happy and I'm at peace and I can sleep at night. And I can look back on my life. And I always say this at the end of the day: if you died today, can you be happy? Can you be happy with how you showed up? If you died today, is there any regrets, any place that you haven't said you're sorry, or any place where you haven't made amends, any place that you feel like, and there's a lot of things that at the end of the day that I think about, I'm so grateful I have the love of this person or that person, like my kids, and that they know that I love them, because sometimes I don't, we live such sort of separate lives at times that days do go by that I don't get on the phone with my oldest and say, hey, I love you. Right? But I think about those things. Do you? Because I think the more grateful we are and the more we express those things too, and we think about them at the end of the day, the more tomorrow I can be better at it. And that's why I do that at night, is so that, and I journal it like, all right, these are the things I'm going to work on tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that both my kids know I love them. I'm going to make sure that I'm kinder to my dad as he's aging and becoming more irritable, like he's irritable and he's irritating. I'm going to be more patient with the ridiculous phone calls about who's my baby's daddy. Like there's lots of things at the end of the day that I think and I pray about and I meditate with, talk to Spirit about. And it is that thing of being very conscious about how we're living our lives, and for every day that I go through where I don't have to cry myself to sleep and ask, why can't I feel the angels around me? I'm grateful, because I had way too many of those, way too many. And when you're going through that, and it's like days on end or weeks on end or months on end, and you're crying every single night and you're lonely and you're unhappy and the pressure just doesn't let up, you think it's never going to end. You think the overwhelm of what you have in front of you and the things you have to do and how you feel that's never going to stop. It is going to stop. But in those moments, it feels like it's going on forever and it's never going to end. But it does end, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. I know you do. I am happy to report that those times did end and I don't have them anymore. Like I don't. And while I'm single, I don't get lonely. I haven't gotten lonely in a long time. The only time I feel lonely sometimes is when I'm around people that I cannot connect to. And they're in their own world, in the world, that I'm like, man, I feel so lonely in this situation. But then I just talk to Spirit. But that's a more lonely feeling, to be around people or in a relationship with someone who is completely disconnected. That's more of a lonely feeling than actually being alone. I'm alone and I actually feel quite good. Scary, because I do. I'm way more comfortable being single and alone without all the flippin' drama. And weird expectations and demands and ideals and someone putting me on a flippin' pedestal and stupid shit that we go through. But not to say that I'm not open. I have told Spirit, fine, bring the right one, but it has to be the right one, not a lesson, and not someone that I have to raise up as a child or dependent. You ladies know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's how I did it. And that's how I still do it. When things get overwhelming, one breath at a time, 1 minute at a time, one step at a time. And If I want to throw a fit about it, I can. It just makes the walk a little heavier. Or I just go through it and power my way through it. So whatever changes you guys are going through, have some faith. Leaps of faith are fun. If you think of it in terms of, I'm going up into the air, it'll be fun to see how Spirit's going to catch me on this one. And you will always be caught. So don't forget that. God loves you. The universe loves you. It has your back. And I love you. And I hope you guys have a good day. Charm Life, folks, like I said at the very beginning of this, we are going to talk about how our stories, our histories, our circumstances, and our events shape our lives. And we're going to talk about the section in Charm Life about your story so that we can start breaking through some stuff throughout this next month. So I'm excited for you guys that are in Charm Life. I will see you guys shortly. I'm going to take a quick break and then poof, I'll be there. You guys have a good night.